Show. I'm your host, Randi-lee. On the show, we interview other writers and we talk about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already hit that like and subscribe button, go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode.
Hello. So today with us we have John Fela. Hello.
Hi there. Great to be here.
Where are you visiting us from?
Well, I live in the Chicago area. I'm actually born and raised in Chicago. I live in the near west suburbs now. And I live with my fabulous wife, Faith, who is actually a neonatal nurse. So,
Oh, cool.
although, yeah, so we have kind of related jobs in the disability world per se, and she's been a longtime volunteer with some organizations that I've worked with as well. So yeah, so it's very much a thing we enjoy doing. So.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's neat. Um, all right, tell us a little bit about who John is.
Absolutely. So, I always jokingly start off by saying that I am trying to trademark the name of Swiss Army Knife of Disability Advocacy because I do a little bit of everything, right? Including opening up your cans. I start off by saying I'm a parent. I'm a parent of a child with a disability. My son Christopher is 17. He's autistic and nonverbal. I guess technically non-speaking. I've had to adjust that more recently. But
Yes.
he currently resides in Wichita, Kansas. He's actually at a residential facility there.
How far is that
That's
from
not
you? Because I'm like super bad with geography.
so. That's about a good 800-ish miles, something like that. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I'm
it's
Canadian, so in time.
Oh, in time. Okay, yeah. So if you were gonna drive it straight, it's probably close to a 12-hour drive, something
Okay.
like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Being Canadian, we say everything in time distance, not real distance. It's very strange. But I understand now. Okay.
That is a Chicago thing too. A lot of times you say how far is something? It's 5 minutes. It's 15 minutes. It's like no,
Exactly.
but what is that? It's like well, that's what it is. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not close, I guess is the point there. And we see him. So I'm divorced from his mom and Faith his stepmom. So we kind of flip flop. We see him like every other month. We actually just saw him earlier this month. And again, it's just so he can finish high school because his public high school here in the Chicago area just wasn't meeting his needs.
Yeah.
So put him out there. It was much better. It's been much better. And eventually he'll come back home. But then, of course, we need to figure out what the rest of life looks like.
Right?
Yeah. So that's my role as a parent, and then otherwise, I have been an advocate for almost 10 years now. I actually just kind of got started, and I guess as I unpack more of my story, this will kind of come out. But really, I got started because I realized how lost I was as a special needs parent, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have community, and I didn't have support. So where do you get that, right? My son's mom and myself, our career paths were actually in education. I was a teacher for years before
Oh,
I got into
really? What did you
advocacy.
teach?
Yeah, I taught mostly lower elementary grades, so
Okay.
kind of the kindergarten through third grade. I
Yeah.
actually did a little bit of preschool. I actually ran a preschool at one time.
Wow.
Done I've done like fourth, fifth as well, kind of thing, and including special ed. I actually was in my last role in teaching full time. I was a special ed teacher, so I know it
Cool.
from both sides of the IEP table, as they say.
Such a fun table to
But
be at.
it is a fun table. It can be challenging, but I always have a lot to share about that. And in fact, that's the topic of one of the books I have coming out in the next several months. As
Oh,
a
so we'll
matter of
get to
fact, so
that.
just a little teaser
Yeah.
teaser trailer there. But yeah, and so in terms of the advocacy, I kind of started out small. I really started out like trying to do support groups for dads in my community, some of which I still do. And then I kind of got hooked in, through all of these different life circumstances and relationships and things.
As it
I got
usually
involved with a
happens.
lot of. Right. The dots just all kind of lined up.
Yep.
And I started writing, doing, just starting out as like a blogger for some different organizations, and then I started working with more people and writing more articles, and so I've been published in a bunch of places. Started, speaking at conferences, that type of thing, speaking on podcasts just like this, and then I'm proud to say that I'll be, I've got two books coming out pretty soon. So,
Very cool.
again, yeah, and it really just started out again from being a dad who was lost, a parent who was lost, and someone who just realized he didn't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a matter of I got to go find me something or I got to go make me something. And in my case, I
Yes.
did a little of both. So,
Yeah, I always say to people, the worst feeling is feeling like you're all by yourself. That's how the show came to be. So, right? Like
yeah.
that's one of those things when you're like, I'm the only one, and then you find out you're not the only one, but then you're like, why did I think I was the only one? Well, other people must think they're the only one. Oh, I got to make sure other people don't think they're the only one. It's like this whole snowball effect. Um, okay, so is Christopher your only child?
Yes. Yes.
And when was he diagnosed?
He was diagnosed before he was three. Now, I actually love to tell the story of how we got there
Yeah.
because he was a preemie. He was born 5 months early.
Wow.
I Yeah, and he was like 4 pounds 2 ounces when we brought him home, kind of thing. So and he was what we at least thought at the time was just like a colicky baby, right?
Yep.
He cried a lot, he was upset a lot, you had to soothe him and all this kind of thing. And as it turned out, as he developed, he became kind of a happy kid and a lot of smiles and laughter. But some things just weren't progressing, and specifically in the area of language. Now, again, his mom and I were both teachers, but it's our first child. We don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
So I remember we went to the pediatrician for his 18-month checkup, and that's normally when they go through kind of that battery of questions and the milestones and things like that.
Yeah.
And, and I remember she asked us the question, "Is he talking?" And we said, "Well, not really. He's kind of making noises, and sometimes it's kind of like a sing-song thing, but there's no true babbling or syllabization or anything like that. And so she said, "Okay, well, there might be a problem. So here's what you do: you go across the street to the professional building, and you have him see a speech therapist." And her exact words were, "I don't know what they do, but they play with the kids and they make them talk. So take him there and you'll be all set." So we said, "Okay."
Yeah.
So we went there. She played with him. He didn't talk. And then we said, "Well, let's get the hearing tested." Did that.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing seemed fine. And then we went through, in Illinois, we have what's known as early intervention, meaning you can get, if your child is under three, you can actually get services through the state, no charge.
Oh, okay.
Now, some of the therapists and things are better than others, and again, they're not diagnosing anything, but they will do evaluations in the home, and based on what they see, they will send folks who can work on certain skills. And then right before he was three, probably a few months before that, we took him to a neuropsych who diagnosed him at the time with what was called pervasive developmental disorder. Now, that
Okay.
no longer exists.
Yeah.
It's all autism spectrum. But she said he's kind of autistic, but not really, so this is a more accurate label. So that was how it started. And so from there, I will tell you that we had the experience of either trying everything with our child or at least investigating it. Because as I'm sure you know, there are many potential cures
Oh,
to
yes.
autism and developmental disabilities. And as I like to say, it's kind of like this thing about they say that for every like band, right? For every musician or what and whatever genre we're talking about, every musician or every band has at least one person where that's like their favorite band or that's like their favorite musician, right? It doesn't matter how bad they are or
Yeah.
whatever, one hit wonder. And it's kind of the same thing that I related to, meaning everything that's out there, it might have worked for one kid and maybe more. But
Yeah.
the fact is that there's no magic bullet. There's no one thing that's curing everybody. And so many parents and so many experts and therapists and all these people you talk to will try to sell you on these things. And that was really our experience was we looked at a bunch of stuff. Some of it helped a little, some of it did nothing. And you
Yeah.
kind of come to the conclusion that, you know what, we're gonna do what we can for our child. We're gonna make the best choices, but at the end of the day, we can't do everything and we're not gonna do everything.
Yeah.
because at some point you just kind of have to pump the brakes and say, look, this is the extent of what we're going to try, for different reasons. There are different reasons, why maybe some people can do more or less. And for us, we just kind of said, you know what, we're going to continue to work on the things that we think are working, but we're not going to make ourselves crazy trying to find that one thing that we think could cure them when that probably doesn't even exist.
Right? There's this saying, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Right?
Yeah,
So
right.
it's such a wide spectrum. And especially since they kind of enveloped the PDD and Asperger's and that kind of thing, they kind of made the umbrella bigger when they put it all together. So it's such a big spectrum. And I always, when people ask me, so my kid has autism, so do I. But when they ask me and they go, well, is she high functioning? I'm like, well, in which area? Because there's this giant misconception that they are either low functioning or they are high functioning, except it's not quite
Right.
as simple as one or the other. It depends. What are they verbally? What are they socially? What are they physically? What are they, right? Like there's all of these that you can break it down to be, they are better at this, they are worse at this, they need more help here. So it's always interesting when I meet other parents because it is so wide range. Um, okay, so I want to talk. Oh, I lost the top to my pen. That's sad.
Uh-oh.
I was fidgeting with it.
It happens.
And okay, so I wanted to go back after when you got the diagnosis. What did you feel like?
So, on the one hand, I'll say that it maybe didn't come as much of a surprise because we had already kind of come to the conclusion that something was off.
Yeah.
Now, the issue though, up until that point, was he was still pretty young. I mean, he's still under 3.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people, friends and family, who will say, and rightfully so, well, he may just grow out of something. Or, boys are late talkers. I remember my own mother said, well, because my son's mom would ask, well, when did John start talking? Oh, I don't know. He started talking at like 2.5 or 3. And she's like, huh? Now, again, if we're going back, I'm Gen X, so, we're going back 30, 40 years. It's like, okay, well, that might have been acceptable. And now it's like, wait a minute, these are all red flags.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, we said, okay, maybe this will just kind of take care of itself. Like, who knows?
Right.
So, on the one hand, we weren't shocked, but, I think what was interesting though was once you kind of get a label and once there were suggestions made. So I know neuropsych made suggestions about ABA therapy, made suggestions about OT and PT, also made suggestions of like cranial sacral therapy for those who are familiar with that. And my son had done plenty of that as well. So there are some different approaches, and again, it wasn't as much of a shock, but I think it was also something where as much work as we had done, and really specifically my son's mom, who is excellent at managing and balancing all of these things, it just kind of felt like we got like this other giant caseload just kind of dropped on our desk, just dropped on our plate. And it's like, okay, whatever you've been doing, we're going to double or triple that. We're going to try some new things. But
Mm-hmm.
you're invested now. This isn't a simple, give us, we'll work with him for 6 weeks and he'll be fine. This is okay. Now we're planning for months and years ahead. And as it turns out, he did ABA for many, many years. He did PT and OT for many, many years and still does. Again, there are some things that maybe we did a little bit of and then stopped or whatever. But the fact is that it was kind of, I guess if there was a sense of relief, it was okay, we had a label, but now we have a lot of work to do, because
Yeah.
obviously we now know where we need to be putting our focus.
Yeah. That's exactly how we felt too. It was not a shock because we knew something was up, and then it was like, okay, here now we have a direction. Because I find for us, anyways, it's like before you have that word, that diagnosis, whatever it might be, it's like, hey, what do I do? Am I just throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks? Like I don't know what to do. But when you have a diagnosis, you're like, okay, I can research, I can find things, I can try things, I can, pick and choose what might work. Like you said, might have worked for that kid. Maybe it'll work for mine, maybe it won't, but let's pick and choose and see what we might think works. Um, but until you have that, diagnosis, you're just like, I don't know. Something's going on, but I don't know. And at least for us, it was like, so Lev didn't get diagnosed until she was 8. Girls do tend to have later diagnoses and things. But by the time she got it, and my husband and I kept going, well, there's something different. There's something going on. There's something wrong, like whatever it is. But until we got that word, the school was just, well, you have to pick her up. She's being disruptive. She's being bad. She's doing this. She's suspended. It's like, but there is something going. Oh, nope. We don't have a doctor's note saying there's something. So it's kind of relieving. I get that because then you have, like you said, a direction. You're pointed somewhere.
Yeah, and there definitely was that, and it's kind of funny you bring up that point about your child having to be picked up because the way that my son got to his current placement was that his public high school had now again to be fair, he never was really an aggressive kid. There were no behaviors. I mean, he had a little stuff in middle school, but it wasn't anything that was too terrible. But he had a really tough sophomore year. His second year of high school was really rough. He had a lot of behaviors. Now, some of those we were able to identify what was going on, some not. Some of it was medication, some of it was just, hormonal, some of it was his GI. Like,
Yeah.
it was a combination of things, and as well as the environment, and we kind of figured that out too. But, his school got to the point where they would call us and they would say someone has to come pick him up. Now, mind you, this is a very well respected high school in the suburbs of Chicago. They have a great program. My son grew up through that school district. And for them to just say, we don't know what to do, so just come get him.
Yeah.
That's basically them waving a white flag saying, sorry, we can't help you. And now as a parent, you're really thrown back into that place of helplessness. We might as well have been back to when he was 2 or 3 years old. Because now it's like, now what do? You're literally saying you can't educate our child, you can't work with his behavior, you can't, just kind of support him in the way he needs to be supported. Where do we go? Because again, and maybe, this is also your experience, there are a lot of places you can send your child to. Doesn't mean they're all good, right?
Yes.
There are a lot of places that are residential or therapeutic schools or anything. And I can tell you in the Chicago area, there are definitely places I would recommend and a lot I would not. And so it's a matter of, okay, are we just going to send him to anything? Or are we going to send him to something that actually will be meaningful? And in our case, unfortunately, as it is, like you might not be aware, but Illinois as a state is consistently at the bottom rung for support in terms of funding
Oh,
and
okay.
supporting families of disability. It's a very tough system to navigate, and it's just there really aren't as many good choices. And what's interesting is that the school he's at, most of the families that come from out of state come from Illinois. Go figure. So it's a surprise, but it's not. But again, going back to this idea that when you parent a child like this, literally your life can be turned upside down in a moment.
Yes.
Because it's not just, well, you're in high school, you're in college, you're set, you're good. It's like, nope, you can get a call tomorrow and say he just turned over the classroom, he's out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what we go through.
And I find there's a bunch of questions I want to ask you, but first, I find that so mine is now 18, almost 19, very scary. The older she gets, the more that her autism is showing, if that makes sense to everyone. Basically, what I mean is when they're younger, you expect certain behaviors from them. You expect a little bit more acting out. When they're getting to 18 and 19, you expect them to get up and shower, brush their teeth, put on clean clothes. You expect them to, just be able to get out the house and go do something, right? Like they're my older one, my stepdaughter, when she was 18 and 19, I mean, she already had her kid by then, and So it was so different. She was out with her friends. She would make plans. She would clean up her room. You know, these are the things that I would expect an 18-year-old to do. But now that my younger one is, I'm like, oh, now I see where you're lacking in those functional skills. But when she's younger, I'm like, okay, yeah, you have a little bit of struggle, but younger kids have a little bit of struggle. Have you found that at all? That like you're noticing the gap is kind of widening at all?
So it's interesting because when he was little, and I'm talking like 2, 3, that area, we tried him at like traditional preschools, for example, and it worked mostly, but again, he still profiled like a lot of the other kids, in terms of how you have to assist them and help them along with this and that, and then as you get older, okay, he's not independent. He's going to go walk off and do his own thing. He's not going to necessarily listen. And that's the thing about the nonverbal and non-speaking, because he does have receptive language. He's just not going to respond to you verbally.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was younger, you could kind of work around that, and then obviously got to the point. Okay, well, he's not going to be in a traditional school setting, or at least he'll be in a traditional school in a special ed room.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're looking at, now that he's high school, now that we're looking at him being an adult, and whatever it's going to look like in terms of residential placement, day programs, or transition, what I find is that there are some things that have kind of always been who he is in terms of his behavior. Is it getting any better or worse? I would say that there are areas where he's definitely improved in terms of maybe some self care tasks, or being able to independently pick up after himself, kind of a thing. He does understand some of those basic expectations and instructions. Where, however, it is absolutely more of a struggle, though, is that for example, my son is still incontinent, and he probably will be the rest of his life. So, is it a challenge when your child is 2 or 3 and you take him into the bathroom and maybe you have to put him on the changing table? It's another thing when your child is 17, 18,
Yeah.
and even for his mom or stepmom, sometimes we'll be ending up in that mom will say, well, I'll take him to the bathroom, and I'm like, are you sure? Because again, he's not a little kid, he's a
Yeah.
man. So and not to get into any of the different cultural commentaries on that, but the fact is that if you're just going to bring a guy into the bathroom, and oh, by the way, he has autism, and people are going to be like, what the heck is this, as
For sure.
opposed to, what, my son has a disability, and you know what, this is just what we have to do, which is another reason why I'm a big believer in kind of the unisex bathrooms everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
because whether it's you define it as the family bathroom or unisex, because guess what, we need that, because most of them, they may have a changing table, but it's not an adult changing table, and while he doesn't necessarily require that much help, the fact is that there are times he has accidents, right? And sometimes those accidents are messy. So to just take him into a regular bathroom and expect him to operate, he can't do. He always needs a person with him. And so, how much more of a struggle will that be now? I mean, we certainly make it work, but again, I could tell you several stories, and some quite recently, of, you're out in public, or you're on the road, or you're doing something, and it's like, oh no. And we always have the emergency bag packed with the change of clothes and this and
Yeah.
that. And sometimes it's like, you leave that bathroom and you want to tell the nice person waiting, maybe you want to go somewhere else, because it's just been one of those days. So yeah, that I think is one of the areas where again, it is a challenge, and it'll probably always be a challenge in that respect. But again, this is also where families like us, we really need the world to shift culturally in terms of their awareness, and
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging, hey, you know what, you have a unique situation, it's not weird, it's just different, and okay, you know what, we're not going to give you a weird look, or make a comment. And to be fair, I haven't had a lot of that, but I've certainly had some. So it's more of the long term thing of, what, he's this way now, and he'll be this way when he's 40, 50, 60,
Yeah.
and we just need the world to cooperate.
Right, exactly. I find for us, we've had maybe more of those comments, and I think it's because, and this, I'm just making stuff up right now, guys. Um, but I find that because Lev appears to be high functioning, right? She will talk your ear off to the point that you don't even know what she's saying, which is a whole other problem. But because she appears that way, and like if we go to a store and she can pick out her own clothes and she can pay the person, when she is having a meltdown or she is having a sensory overload, whatever, the looks happen and the comments happen. I'm like, what? What? But when we're at a store and we see another kid or teen, whatever, who you can look at and go, okay, yeah, they probably have autism or something going on because you can kind of see it. They don't get the looks and the comments as much. I think there's this big misconception, especially around autism or any invisible disability, let's be real, where people just feel the need to judge you when it's none of their damn business. It's not affecting your life. Go on, lady. Shoo shoo. Um, can tell that's happened recently. But anyways, so there's this, like you said, there's this big gap that people need to kind of understand what's happening, whether it's that your kid needs help with the bathroom cleanup or whatever it happens to be, especially as they get older. And I'm a little bit chuckling to myself as you're saying, we make it work. Because we recently had a assessment thing for our funding structure here now that she's an adult. And I never realized as a parent how many things you just do. You automatically just do and you make them work and you just, because it's your life. Because the questions were things around, if you were not there, could she do this on her own? And I'm like, oh, well, I just do it for her because I know she needs it. So I guess if I wasn't there, no, she would need a support worker for that. Oh, right. But as a parent, you just do these things for your kid. And I find I didn't put a lot of thought into all the tiny, minute things like, oh, here's your clean clothes for the day because she doesn't know how to dress appropriately for the weather. Well, if you weren't there, could she do that? Huh. Interesting. So you really got me thinking. I kind of flashed back to that meeting.
Hmm. Yeah, and you know what? It's also interesting too when you make the comment about just the observations from people. So my son has a service dog. Okay, it's not with him now because they can't have the dog because of allergies. The
Yes.
dog is at home, but when he's the dog is waiting for him basically, and the dog comes on vacation and whatever. But when we were first training, when we were first working with the organization where we were getting the dog from, and it was actually a little bit of a drive from us. It was out in Iowa, so that's about a 5-6 hour drive.
Okay.
We we would go out and they would do the training over like a weekend, and we'd go out several weekends, kind of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And one day they said, we're going to go to Walmart and we're going to do a little test run here. And it was fascinating to me because now here's the thing: the way that Chris kind of profiles is he loves going to stores, he loves going to big retail, this and that. But you got to tell him, hey man, hands on the cart. Your hands are on the cart, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise he's reaching for everything, grabbing for stuff, or especially like you have those big like pallets of the huge like 50-pound
Oh.
bags of dog food or
Yeah.
kitty litter, because then he's jumping on that thing because it makes a great sound when you just slap the heck out of it.
I mean, it's
So
not
that
wrong.
well, I mean, it's like, hey, it's there. Like, why did you put it in the middle of the aisle for him? But anyway, but it was funny how when we walked in with the dog, we actually got looks from people like, oh, that's so great. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, that's wonderful. You could just see the countenance in their face. It was like a totally different experience because they had a visual cue. And it's the dog's wearing a vest, and the dog, it's like, okay, we can put two and two together.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? As opposed to what's wrong with that kid. So it's funny how people associate these things in their mind as well, as far as like, oh, okay, now I get it, kind of a thing. And it's also a shock too, because what I also tell people is, I don't think that my son has ever really been bullied. I mean, there were a couple of times, but you know, the times that you don't expect it are usually when it happens. Like in my son's case, I know, you know, he had it happen when he was like in first grade, and you know, a
Yeah.
girl in the mainstream class made some comment, and the teacher, you know, checked her, and okay, whatever, they're kids. But you know, we had it happen in a restaurant, you know, near to where he grew up, a very popular restaurant, and you know they were. It was actually, I wasn't there. It was his mom with my mother-in-law's grandma, and they were there. And of course, it's, you know, it's like early dinner time, so of course all of the seniors are usually there at
Mm-hmm.
that between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock thing, and they were sitting next to some, you know, older couple, and the husband is making a bunch of comments about him, and you know, why do you even bring him out in public, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking to myself, like if I was there, I'd flip my cookies or something. But again, that's a thing. You know, this might be a very loving older grandma couple, whatever. But you know what? To my kid, they were, you know, whatever expletive you want to use. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you never know, right? You never know, and that's where, you know, again, it, as a parent, you know, your antenna are always up, and you're just kind of looking as you walk into a restaurant or you walk into a this, and obviously you kind of have your tricks already in play of, okay,
Mm-hmm.
how are we going to make it work here? We need to sit over here. Let's sit in this booth. Let's sit in this booth away from people, because
Yes.
otherwise, you know, we're hooting and hollering and whatever. And you know, for the most part people are good, but again, you have an anxiety you will always carry as a parent
Oh,
when
yeah.
you are with your child, because you just never know.
Yeah, exactly. We had an experience similar to that. Oh, I want to say it's pre-COVID now. See, that's how life happens: pre-COVID or post-COVID or during COVID. Um, we were at Boston Pizza, and we were me, my husband, and our youngest was there, and she was just having a great time, and she all literally all she was doing was making silly noises. They were not loud. They were not obnoxious. She was not yelling. She was just being like, "Dop, dop, dop," like just noises. It was fine. But we were in a booth. The booth behind us, the guy called the waitress over because he just, oh, they're being so loud. They're being sort of disrupted. He was just being a dick. And so the waitress moved them to a different table, and it was just him. The wife looked completely embarrassed. Moved them to a different table and apologized to us because she knew that we could hear it all, because nobody else around us seemed to care, but just one guy because she was. And I'm sorry, when you go out in public, this is one of my biggest pet peeves here. When you go out in public, other people are allowed to be out in public, and other people are allowed to have make noise or cry or do whatever it is that they need to do to be out in public. And if you don't like it, don't tell that mom to take their screaming child away. Don't give looks to other people. You could take yourself out.
That's a great perspective, and you know what? I would love to see. I would love to get our culture to a point where that would actually happen. I'm not saying it's not possible or won't happen. I think it'll take a long time, because
Mm-hmm.
it's such a shift, because people are so used to saying, well, I'm here and I'm paying for this, or I have a right to be here, and why don't they fix it? And it's like, well, wait a minute. This isn't about fixing anything, right? This is who my child is. You know, my child makes noise in a restaurant because he loves to eat, and
Right.
he can't wait for food. And that's why I tell the nice server person, I say, hey, can we get a thing of fries like now? Can we just give us that side of bacon now?
Yeah.
Just bring it, like whatever, and we'll figure out the rest later. As opposed to, okay, well, he's making noise. Yeah, you know what? He's happy. He's
Yeah.
not here because he's a drunk buffoon or he's trying to cause a fight or a disturbance. He's happy to be here. He's excited to eat. And you know what? You know, as a parent, of course you want to indulge your child and engage with that and be like, yeah, this is very exciting. And you know, for the most part, I think most restaurants and you know, places you go in public are usually pretty good about engaging with you, kind of thing, and supporting
Yeah.
that. You know, I don't think I've had a bad experience like that. But yeah, absolutely, to your point, where it's like, you know, people saying, you know what, okay, and I think I have seen this where some folks have moved their seat or have moved their table. They didn't make a comment, but they could see, okay, and maybe in their head, like when he was younger, it's just a noisy kid. So what?
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, I have seen that happen occasionally. But again, it is different when you know when he's 3, 4, or 5. Oh, he's just a little kid, yeah, whatever. As opposed to he's 18 and he's hollering like a 3-year-old about some French fries. Like what's the deal,
Yeah.
right? So again, it's just that's why I say like the awareness as a culture. I think it's better. It's certainly better than when I was a kid.
Yes.
But because certainly like when I was a kid, the R word was still something we called everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You're R this, you're R that, and now it's like you hear it and it's like because and again even for me and if I hear somebody say it, okay, I'm not going to punch him in the face or anything, but at the same time, you just bristle because it's like, does that person even get it?
Right.
Like, and
Exactly.
again, un- unfortunately, also, if this is not someone's real life first person experience, a lot of times they're oblivious and
Yep.
okay, maybe not their fault, they're just ignorant.
Exactly. That's why
But
education is important.
yeah, and we just have to keep pushing it and just keep pushing the awareness and just getting people comfortable to the idea, hey, listen, this is not going away. The numbers, and I do this in presentations all the time, talk about the numbers. People with disabilities, adults, kids, are the largest minority in the world now. That's
Mm-hmm.
not me saying it, that's the World Health Organization saying it. And in America, one in 6 adults, it's 1 in 4 kids.
Yeah.
You can't say I don't have an experience of that. You probably do. Maybe you're not really aware of it or plugged into it, but you probably do.
Right. Exactly. Um, Oh my goodness, we've already been talking for a little over half an hour. I could probably talk to you for much longer. However, I guess we have to wrap up a little bit. So, before you talk about your books, um, what would be your piece of wisdom? I'm going to say, what would be your piece of wisdom to somebody who is going, well, I don't have any of that experience. I want to learn, but I have no idea where to even begin.
Yeah, that's a great question. So to get awareness if you are a person who's not exposed to disability, my best advice would be to, try to get plugged in. And there's a variety of ways I think you can get plugged in, and it's kind of similar to what I would say to a parent of disability if you're looking for community. First of all, think about the people in your own neighborhood. Think about the people who maybe your kids go to school with. Think about the people if you attend a church or whatever civic organization or something. Think about the people that are around you. Are there families that have this experience? Is someone's child maybe in your family or a friend has something? And you know what? If you never really paid attention, maybe you just want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with them. And what I really encourage people to say is, hey, listen, how can I help you? How can I support you? Is there something I can do? I'm interested in learning. I really don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
But could I come by and hang out, or could I come by and observe or engage, or if you need a break, can I give you a half an hour break and maybe I can just get some experience here. So a lot of it really just starts with the people and the people that are close to you. Obviously there are so many things in the culture now in terms of TV shows and movies and books and all of these things, and I could probably rattle off a bunch, but the fact is that I would say start with the people because you also want to have a first person real world experience of it,
Mm-hmm.
because again, not everything in a movie or a TV show is going to be accurate. Not saying that there aren't some good ones, but again,
Yeah.
you want to know, hey, listen, what does the nitty gritty of this look like? Like, what does it really look like to have to change your child's clothes 5 times a day because they had an accident? What does it look like to actually feed your child who might have, some you might have some physical issues with feeding on any level? What does it look like for your child who is self injurious or injurious, how let's
Yep.
I think you know what I mean.
Yes.
How do you handle a child who is going to harm themselves and possibly harm others, including their own parents? And that has happened to us as well as parents. So what is that experience, right? And again, no one is asking you to come in and be an expert or a trauma coach or anything, but be a friend, be a friend
Yes.
and walk alongside that person and see what it really means to them.
I like that. Be a friend. I'm gonna turn that into a shirt. I don't know how yet, but I like it. Stealing it. Okay, so
Right at.
tell us about these. You said you had two books coming out.
Yeah, so I have one that's mine,
Okay.
and I have one that I'm contributing to.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so the one that's mine will hopefully be out later this fall. It's essentially my memoir as a special needs dad. It's called Faith Like My Father, and
I
it's
like
called that
that.
because it's really the story of how my father raised me.
Okay.
And as it turns out, my father was really not much of a dad. He was an alcoholic. He was really checked out. He really didn't do a lot of the typical dad son stuff. He
Mm-hmm.
did some of it, but not much.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, he gave me the best life advice I ever could have gotten, and I won't spoil that because you got to read it. But the
Mm.
fact is that there's a thread of that story throughout the book, and how it affected me becoming a special needs parent, experiencing a lot of trauma, especially in the early years of that, eventually going through a divorce, becoming a single parent, and of course balancing all of that, during COVID and this type of thing, and then finding someone and getting remarried. But then that life advice I got from my father actually turned out to be way more profound than I realized, and I really didn't get it until the end of the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm excited about that. So that should be coming out very soon, and it should be available on all different platforms. And then the second book is actually a book I'm doing with a friend of mine, Dr. Stephanie Holmes. She's in the Atlanta area, and she's doing a lot of great work in the field of neurodiversity, specifically in families and specifically in married couples where one or both of the partners self-identify as having, a developmental disability or
Mm-hmm.
being on the spectrum. So um, she's doing a book with Temple Grandin that I'm
Oh,
lucky enough
she's
to say I got to contribute
fantastic.
to.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a book, and don't ask me to quote the title because it's very long, and I don't want to mess it up. But it's a book that is geared toward educators and therapists to give them just kind of like what we've been talking about now. Give them a first person perspective of what it's like to either be an adult with a disability or be a parent of a child with a disability. And in my case, I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing from the perspective of parent and also former educator. So it's really to kind of open their minds and hearts into what this world really is. So excited about that too as well, and that'll be coming out I think in March. So probably
Okay.
like the spring we'll be
All
looking
right.
for
So
that. But I'm
one's
excited
a
about
little
that one,
longer
and yeah.
away, but
Little bit, but I'll be
time flies.
if people follow me. Oh well, it does, yeah. So if people follow me on social media, they'll see updates about that
And that was
and
my next
whatnot too.
question.
So
Where? Where? What's your handle?
yes, so I like to say if you plug me into the Google machine, you can find me everywhere. So I do have a website. It's just myname.com, johnfella.com. You'll get most of my content there. I will tell you that my webmaster, who's my friend, who does a great job, but there's always like new stuff that I'm, doing or coming out with or whatever. So the best way is to just plug me into Google or follow me on the socials. So I'm on Facebook. I do have a dedicated Facebook page. It's John Special Needs Blog, John
Oh,
Special Needs Blog on Facebook. But I also have a regular Facebook page. You're welcome to connect with me there too. And then I'm on Instagram. It's John underscore Fella underscore one on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, X, and all of those other fun things. And just punch my
nice.
name in and you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Remind us one more time what the name of your book is so that we can keep our eyes open for it.
Yes, Faith Like My Father, and I believe the subtitle is A Special Needs Dad's Journey with Faith and Redemption. I really think I got that right. So, yeah, so that's, yeah. Yeah, I just made it and I sent it to the publisher and whatever. But anyway, but yeah,
That's funny.
you'll be able to find that. Just look for Faith Like My Father. Yeah,
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. Subtitles are great, but like,
yeah, right. Yeah, that's a lot of words. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing. I love connecting with everybody, but especially since autism is so close to my heart, other parents who have experienced similar types of things. Great conversation. For everybody who is watching, make sure that you check out the links down below because that will be where all of John's socials and stuff are, whatever. Click on them. It's been a long day. At one point today, I thought it was Monday. And I'm looking at my full-time regular job. Ew. And I'm looking at the schedule and the person saying gotta move the tomorrows. I go, but that's Wednesday. Oh, today's Tuesday, and it made me feel so great that it wasn't Monday. But anyways, I digress. Always. Check out the links down below in the description. Make sure that you follow John so that you can be up to date when this book comes out because it sounds fantastic. And I'm assuming you're going to let us in on when the other book is out that you're contributing to, which also sounds fantastic. So be sure to follow John and click the like and subscribe button if you haven't already and share the episode out with everyone else. But remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye!